Good morning to one and all present here. This is Renuka. I am going to discuss about the tax exemption in this video. Okay, I belong to Business Administration Department. I am working as an assistant professor in Dr. SNS Rajalakshmi College of Arts and Science. Okay, let's start with today's video in the topic of tax exemption. Before we are calculating that tax exemption, we have to see the some calculation under the ITC. So suppose if any supermarket buys grocery or beverages and the household item from the wholesaler and sells them to the customers. Okay, at the time the transaction will be happening between the purchaser and the seller. Okay, at the time they have to involving the GST when the terms of purchasing items. Okay, at the time they have to pay the GST at the rate of 12 percentage, and also after manufacturing all the product they are selling to the consumer. At the time they have to collect the GST at the rate of 12 percentage. So the difference between the input and the output, that is called the ITC. That is they have to get the credit. They have to claim the credit among that self of we are selling the product. Okay. Next we move to the types of GST exemption. So under this type, we have to make the some important exemption involved in the GST, and also they have to make the some GST collected from the persons under GST. It is supermarket as a purchaser. They have to collect the tax from the customer point itself. Next, the implementation under the GST exemption. So they have to identify the exempt supplies and whether it is determined the goods and services are under the GST it should be exempted or not. Then second main important implementation is they are try to compliance about the registration and updates. Also they have to periodically check for changes in the exemption rule. Next, we move to the some important grant exemption of tax concept. So, under this grant, suppose they are have to get the some concession or the subsidies will be getting for the tax exemption under GST. So, first one is legal framework and authority and types of exemption, eligibility criteria, and application and approval process, state versus central variation, and review of complaints of the records. So the legal framework and authority is nothing but suppose they are going to getting any tax exemption under GST. At the time they have to submit all the record as per the GST legal framework. So legal framework is nothing but they are supposed to submit all the record. It should be by the law. Next, we move to find out the types of exemption. Okay, so under the type of exemption, they are having a main three category of exemptions are there. First, we try to find out whether it is a fully exempted or sometime some of the product is coming under the partially exempted, and third one it is zero rated exempted. So based on the product nature we have to classify or categorize the exemption of tax under GST. So when you are making the transaction, whether it is which category will be involved in the tax exemption. Next, we move to eligibility criteria. So under the eligibility criteria is focusing on the turnover of the products or services. So suppose as a GST person, they have to get the exemption. Their eligibility is we have to make the two important condition. One is we are making the goods and services. Okay, one is goods and another one is services. In terms of goods, they are manufactured. Automatically, their turnover it should be less than 40 lakhs. So they have to get the fully exempted. In terms of service, they are supposed to get the exemption. Their turnover should be less than 20 lakhs. So this is the main two condition they are supposed to fulfill. The next one is application and approval process. They have to apply and make the all process under the grant exemption. Next, we move to some of the effectiveness of tax exemption. In case they have to get any tax exemption, what is the impact happening under the GST payer? Economic growth and investment, administrative burden, might be their revenue loss for government, effectiveness depending upon the targeting.